Our next in-person mastermind is coming up this fall, and we're heading to Vegas. We're kicking off this mastermind with an in-person tour at Zappos downtown Las Vegas campus, where you'll learn their strategies behind company culture, core values, employee engagement, and customer service. Looking outside the legal industry for business concepts and strategies allows you to gain fresh perspectives and innovative solutions that can be applied to improve and differentiate your firm's operations. Following the tour are the mastermind hot seats. Every attendee has the opportunity to dive deep into their business obstacles with their mastermind group and coach. We believe that nothing beats working on your firm in person, so join us in Las Vegas on November 7th and 8th. This is your chance to break through barriers, spark new ideas, and accelerate your law firm's success. Limited spots are available. Visit maxlawevents.com for full event details and to grab your ticket today.
Run your law firm the right way. This is the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. Your hosts, Jim Hacking and Tyson Mutrux. Let's partner up and maximize your firm. Welcome to the show.
Brooke, welcome to the Maximum Lawyer Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me on, Becca.
Absolutely. So good to have you. All right, we're going to dive right in and tell us about what is CathCap and what is the number one pain point that you solve?
Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't know we were going this deep this fast. All right. CathCap helps law firms grow and scale profitably. And we do this by serving as an outsourced CFO. Most law firms, most small businesses in the U.S., which really is the backbone, small businesses are the backbone of the U.S. economy, don't have access to the skill and expertise of a fractional or of a CFO. So we come in, we give law firms that strategic advice that really can drive profit. There was something else you asked me, and I totally forgot what it was.
That's great. So the second question was, what was the number one pain point you solved? So I think that you answered that. And then my follow-up question was going to be, why did you start CathCap?
Oh, wow. So through just a weird series of events and happenstance, I, after grad school, ended up running my family's law firm. And I hired someone to help with sales and marketing. And he only worked with law firms. And his clients started coming to me and saying, can you do for us what you do for your family? And I was like, what are you talking about? And that was when I came to understand that lawyers weren't running their law firms based on data. They were running them on gut instinct, and that was causing stress and anxiety and, frankly, a lot of lost profitability. And so I started CathCap.
That's awesome. I love that origin story. Another thing that I love is from working with you with the couple of conferences that you attended at MaxLawCon. I just love how open you are with sharing. So what I would love to do is for you to start at the beginning of growing CathCap as a business and share a bit of your own business experience. So a lot of times product and service providers aren't that relatable. And we wonder, what do they really know about starting a business from scratch and the challenges that they have to overcome to build a successful law firm? Can you share what building your business was like for you between that area of like 2012 to 2015?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're looking for, Becca. So starting it was actually pretty easy. I found someone and we kind of started, basically I said I would private label for him. And so he became my client, and I did what I was doing for my family. And as soon as I got 7 clients through him, I left my family's law firm and I gave him a count. like every day. Okay, I've got 3, I've got 4, I've got 6. And so I walked into my brother's office one day. I'm like, I got my 7. And he's like, okay, like, why does this matter? I'm like, because I'm out on Friday. Like, this is my last week. And he got a panic. So anyway, so I left, and that was all great. And I loved the way I started because it really was a low risk way to start. And then we had a 3-year agreement, and the agreement, it was time to renew. And I said no. He was 94.3% of my business, because leading up to that decision, I had, of course, blown up relationships with I don't know how many other clients that I had outside of him. Because, I mean, Becca, think about it. When you have to make that hard decision, your whole life starts to implode, right? So I had blown up some of my other clients, and he ended up, at the time when I made the decision, was 94.3% of my business. But we weren't a core value match. And I still knew that was the right decision to make. And so one of my people left. I maxed out all my credit cards. I, had 2 lines of credit that I had gotten in advance knowing this was going to happen. Maxed those out, went through all of my savings. And I vividly remember applying for that last credit card. I applied for it. I got it. A whopping $2,000 limit. And Becca, I waited for that thing, and it finally showed up, and I was so relieved. And I waited till about 10 o'clock at night. And then I went to a bank on the other side of town where nobody would recognize me. And I did a cash advance because I needed all the cash I could get off of it. And there I was when the bank opened the next morning, sliding that stack of $20 bills across to the teller because I had to make payroll. And that was how I made payroll. And so, yeah, I've been there. And it took me, from that low point, it took me about 2 years to pay off all of that debt and to get out of that. But I knew that I was doing the right thing. I believed in the company. I believed in our mission. I believed in what we were doing. And I knew we were doing it the right way. I knew we were helping clients. And I knew it was a matter of time. And because I had such faith in what we were doing, I was able to hold on. But it was hard.
Absolutely. That's what I love about how you can work with businesses now, though, business owners especially, and you can relate to them on more than just your expertise level. You can relate to them on a personal level as well. And I think that's super important.
Well, Becca, we all make the best decisions we can with the information we have at the time. Do we all make the best decisions? End of sentence? No. Do we do dumbass things? Yes. Have I done dumbass things? Yes. But we do the best we can. And, we extend that grace to our clients. Was it the best idea to really take out a loan against your credit card processor? Probably not. But that's where we are. So let's figure out how to make it work. There's no blame. There's just moving forward.
I love that. That was a really great example. Yes.
And at the moment, that was the only place they could figure out where to get cash, and they needed that cash to make payroll. And it was more important to make payroll than anything else. So you know what? That was 100% the right decision to make.
Absolutely.
Then. Fully support it. Now we're going to look for other ways that in the future we could make decisions that aren't quite so expensive.
Yes. Such a good example. All right, so shifting just a little bit, because today we're primarily going to be talking about exiting your law firm. And you recently published your 6th book, Exit on Top.
I did.
All right, so my question is, what did you experience that you knew that this was the next book that law firm owners needed?
I went to NTL, National Trial Lawyers meeting, and it's that one that happens every January. And I'm sitting in this panel about non-attorney law firms. And the woman who was head of the Arizona Ethics Bar was doing it. And I sat there and I'm like, oh, this is it. I mean, Becca, I had a hard time running my family's firm because I wasn't an attorney. And there I was. I saw every way I could make it so much better. And, they were being the attorneys they were. And they were like, well, I don't know, let's look into that. Let's do a little more research and let's see if we can, I'm like, whatever. And so I'm sitting in that room and I'm like, this is it. I have been waiting for 10 years to be able to own my own law firm. I'm going to do this. I'm going to own a firm. This is going to be awesome. And then I sat back for a second and I thought about all of our clients. And I thought about what non-attorney ownership was going to mean for them and how that was going to change the landscape of the legal world. And, with private equity coming in. And I also started to think about the fact that all the baby boomers are
Yes.
retiring and what's going to happen with their law firms. And I was like, okay, so I could go run a law firm. I could go run and own a law firm, and I could manage the crud out of that thing and make it really, really profitable. Or I could help all of our clients with theirs, whether it's selling them or buying them, because buying law firms is a great way to grow your firm. And so I was like, okay, that's it. I'm not going to own one. I'm going to write about buying and selling them. And that's why I wrote the book.
Awesome. Okay, so who exactly is this book for? And then what are you sharing inside that will help law firm owners get the most out of their firm in the end?
So it is written for a seller, but is just as useful for a buyer. And I think the big key, the big secret to this book is that, well, a couple of things. One, it takes 3 to 5 years to sell a law firm. It takes 3 to 5 years to get ready to sell a law firm, because there's a lot of work that you have to do internally to make it really profitable, to make sure you've got the right people in the right seats, to make sure that it is running in a way that doesn't require you as the owner to be the one that is turning the crank, making sure everything is functioning. And that takes some time to implement. The more you do that, the more valuable your firm is. So you need to start in advance of when you want to sell. But what's amazing is that a firm that's an attractive acquisition target, a firm that somebody wants to buy, is the firm you want to own, because it throws off a lot of money. It has happy clients and happy employees, and it doesn't take a lot of effort from the owner. So, to some extent, why do you want to sell it?
Absolutely.
It's giving you all the money.
Yes. Okay, this is what I feel like we see a lot with people in the maximum lawyer community, though. Most people aren't thinking about valuing their firm when they're using all of their mental and physical energy to get started or scale their firm right now. But there is a huge benefit to understanding how to value your firm well before someone is thinking of exiting. So what should they know now related to valuing their firm?
Okay, well, I think the first thing is the way to value a firm is a firm's value is between 2.5 and 4 times what's called SDE. And SDE is seller's discretionary earnings. And basically, that's total owner comp. That's your salary, that's your draws, that's, all the stuff you run through, all the personal expenses you run through the firm. I know you do it. I do it. We all do it. I don't care. That's between you and the accountant, like whatever. But it's 2.5 to 4x that number. So basically, when you sell your firm, you're going to get 2.5 to 4 times the benefit that you would have gotten in a year. I think why it's important to look at it in advance is a few things. I think, first of all, if all of your energy is going into growing your firm, it is an amazing way to grow your firm by buying other firms. So I had a client in El Paso, and we were going to a conference in Mexico. We met up in the Dallas airport, and we're sitting there, and she kind of leans over. She's like, "Hey, Brooke." I'm like, "What?" She's like, "I think I'm going to buy a law firm in Atlanta." I'm like, "Excuse me? You live in El Paso. You know that's not close." Because let me tell you, El Paso is not close to anything. And I was like, "How'd you find it?" She said, "Oh, I was, cruising around on the internet. I was bored one Sunday afternoon." Okay, so like at this point, I'm starting to panic. And, it was an immigration firm, not exactly like her immigration firm, but complementary to hers. And she wanted something on the East Coast. And she's like, "I think it's great." And then they called and we boarded, and she was sitting 2 rows ahead of me. And I had to panic all the way to Mexico because I didn't know what she was doing. Well, it turns out that I knew not only the broker, but I knew the law firm that she was buying. It was a great way for her to get experts in what they do. This law firm was very specific and very much in this niche market. There was going to be a great referral relationship between her now 2 firms. She has the experts in the industry. She has the location on the East Coast. She's increasing her revenue by about 50%. The firm is generating enough profit to not only pay for its own sale, but also she's going to make money off of it in the first year. Okay, so where's the problem with this? It's a great way to grow her firm. So, that's awesome. I think when you're looking at, we all need to look at retiring. I don't think we do it enough. I think as attorneys, and especially if you're a PI attorney, you really don't look at it because you're always reinvesting. You're always buying that next set of cases. And they're the biggest gamblers on earth. So, the next one's going to pay out and then we'll use that to retire. This is part of your retirement planning. And there's so many people that are thinking, "Oh, private equity's coming in. I'm going to do that big, huge, 20 times revenue exit." No, you're not. You're going to do maybe, if you're lucky, a 1x revenue exit. So let's be realistic so that you can look at the other parts of your life and know what you're doing. Know how you're going to get there, because you may not be there yet, but at some point you will be. So don't think that your $2 million law firm is going to sell for $200 million. It's just not.
Yes. Okay. So you had said, prepping a law firm to be sell ready might take between, say, 3 and 5 years. So why should a law firm owner focus on that now, especially if they're younger? So, they're not that they're not thinking about retirement, but they're not even close time-wise. So why would that be a great priority for them to have right now?
So I was speaking about this book recently to a group of attorneys, and about half the attorneys in the room had a second business. They were all really entrepreneurial, and they totally got it. And they had done a lot of the work that I was talking about. The firm you want to sell is the firm you want to own.
I like that.
It doesn't take your time. It gives you a lot of money, and it doesn't take your time. So all these guys had gone off, and they were mostly guys. There were a few women in the room, but they had gone off They had optimized their law firms, gotten it to the point where it didn't require them to be in their law firm 60 hours a week. They're in their law firm 20, 25 hours a week. And they went and started these other businesses that interested them. Yeah. Okay, that sounds like fun. I have another client who has optimized his law firm so that he can coach his son in baseball. He went so far as to build a baseball field in the lot behind his office and a batting cage. He has a batting cage.
That's awesome.
At his office. So, it's a dual thing. A firm that's ready to sell is easy to own. So you want to build it now. Do the work now while you're young and energetic and reap the benefit for decades. I mean, why do you want to run a bad law firm? Why? Why do we want to do it the hard way? Let's push the easy button here. Do the hard work up front and then be able to coast. Don't coast now and then try to cram all the hard work in at the end. You're never going to catch up.
That's a really great point. I love that. And I also love how you say that the firm that you can sell is the firm that you want to run. I think that's a really great point. Yeah. Okay, so let's dive into some of the common blind spots or misconceptions that law firm owners have regarding either the financial health or the value of their firm. I know you hit on, you might think you're going to exit at 20x or something like that, but is there anything else?
Big misconceptions. I think one of the things that's coming that I am most excited about is non-attorney ownership. And I'm excited is probably the wrong word. I am also apprehensive about it. I think that it is going to create some great opportunities for some attorneys that want to get out of their firms. I don't think it's going to be great for clients. I think it's going to commoditize a lot of things, a lot of legal work. And I got to tell you, all you attorneys out there, fight it for every moment that you can, because it has not done any favors to the dental industry or to the veterinary industry. That being said, it will create a lot of opportunities. So I see that everywhere.
You made a great point, and you kind of hit on, the dental industry and veterinary clinics, things like that. That actually made me think of more like consumer businesses. So it made me think of, shopping small. That's something that I like to do. I feel like the quality of the product or the service that I get when I shop small is 90% of the time better than anything that I can get from any like big box store or anything like that. So I feel like even if, non-attorney ownership is going to become legal nationwide or anything like that, I think that there's always going to be this opportunity there where the shop small version of going to an attorney-owned law firm is always going to be there, and they can always have that edge.
I think there is, and I think where you're going to find it more prevalent is in those niche down firms. I think I think there are a couple of firm types that private equity is going to go after immediately. I think they're going to go into PI because it's high risk, high reward.
Capital intensive. They'll just throw money at it.
I mean, they're already financing it, so owning it is the next step. I think they'll look at things like immigration because it's so forms driven and relies so heavily on paralegals and legal assistants. I think they will look at bankruptcy, like consumer bankruptcy. Again, doesn't really take much attorney work. So I think all of that, those things are going to be like basically in-person legal Zoom, right? I think that specialized law firms in other types of law are going to be the shop local, shop small, because they're going to be different, because it's so specific, because they know that part of the industry so well. I think you're going to get that kind of industry knowledge and caring, because I mean, if I owned a law firm, I probably wouldn't care as much as most attorneys do. I don't care about the law that much.
That makes sense. All right. You help law firm owners create a plan to increase the value of their firm using time, buyer type, strategic improvement. Can you walk us through the significance of those three things, or even give us an example of how a law firm owner has increased value through those three things?
Yeah. So let's start with time. Time is a big factor. There's a great saying, M&A work. You can have your price on my timeline or my price on your timeline, but you can't have both. So If you want to sell fast, they get to pick the price. That's just the way it's going to be. If you have all the time in the world, you will have much more control over dictating your own price. So you got to choose one. They're on opposite ends of the scale. You want time or you want price? When we talk about types of buyers, there are different types of buyers that are going to want different things. So let's look. So that client that I mentioned from El Paso that bought the firm in Atlanta, she wanted to buy a specialty practice that was complementary to her own. She needed that firm to run really well as it is, right? She knew she was going to have to come in and do some work on technology. She also knew that she has the expertise in her firm to bring infrastructure in for things like billing and management. So she wasn't so worried about their management expertise. She just wanted their legal expertise and their reputation.
Absolutely.
So if that person had been trying to sell and had spent an immense amount of time, bringing in and training her management team, that could have been a waste of effort, right? If you are let's go into the future, we're private equity. No, let's not go into the future of private equity. Let's stay current and say that you own a personal injury firm and you do run-of-the-mill car accidents. And I'm going to use Morgan & Morgan as an example. Morgan & Morgan comes in and buys you. Not you join their firm, but they come in and they buy you.
Sure.
I am assuming, I don't know this for a fact, but I do know how there's a guy named Jim Adler here in Texas. He was the first one that advertised when they let attorneys advertise. His attorneys run something like 1,500 cases each. That is an insane number. I think that's how many. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
In a case, the people at intake decide whether they're going to file suit or not. And it goes down one of these two tracks. Okay, if you're a PI firm and you decide that you want to sell, and you're going to sell to Jim Adler, and you spend a whole lot of time building up all of your policies and procedures about how you work cases, that is a waste of time. Jim Adler doesn't care because he's got this infrastructure and this way that he works cases. And that's what's going to happen. Does he want your bodies? Possibly. He wants your footprint. He wants your marketing. He wants to be able to come in and take your market, convert it to his name, and build on it. So you just have to look at who it is that you want to buy. If you want to sell to partners, if you're the single owner and you want, like my father wanted to make my brother a partner. Okay, well, that's great. But that's a different way of doing it. I talk about a client in the book that his father gifted him 40% of the firm. I talk about bonking people on the head with the magic wand. So he got bonked on the head with the magic wand and given 40% of the firm. You can't do that anymore. Okay. There are new ownership rules, and I think this is going to start causing a tax event.
Sure.
He increased the value of the firm while he was working with us from $5 million to about $20 million. Okay. His father still owns 60% of the $20 million firm. His father's tax and estate people are slightly panicked that his father might die before they figure out some way to transfer the other 60% of the law firm to him. And they're trying to figure out how to do it without making my client buy the other 60% or create a tax event.
Yeah.
So you've got to be looking at it and looking for different things. How are we going to do this? So your buyer matters. So what was the third one we were going to talk about?
Of course. So then you had mentioned strategic improvement.
Strategic improvement, that really flows into what kind of buyer and how much time. So, Jim Adler is buying your firm. We know that we want a Jim Adler to buy the firm. We're not going to spend time on policies and procedures.
Right.
We've got a short time frame. We're going to put some lipstick on that pig and keep going. We are not going to bring any new technology in the short term because it's expensive, it takes a lot of effort from your team, and it doesn't show results quickly. But if we've got a long time frame, let's bring in technology. Because if we bring it in, if we integrate it all, if we sync it all up, and we're using 80% of the CRM capabilities and our practice management system capabilities, then we can actually prove out with data all the claims we're making about the firm. And that's going to up the price.
Absolutely. I love that. Okay. Can you tell us, are there key areas to fix before a sale, or is this always going to depend on the specific firm?
It's always going to depend on the specific firm. That being said, I actually have a quiz that people can go take to figure out what part of their firm needs attention the most.
And where can they find that?
ExitOnTopBook.com.
Awesome.
Because, there are a lot of different places where you can start, and there are as many different places to start as there are law firms. So you just have to find what's right for you. And it's a matter of your firm, how your team operates, how you operate, who you're selling to, how much time you have. All of that factors into what you should be looking at.
Okay, I feel like that might actually apply to my next question. So I was going to ask, in your work with law firm owners, what are the most common challenges that they face when trying to implement the changes that they need to do to increase the value of their firm?
Oh,
you find that happening.
They're people.
Yes.
Absolutely. Nobody likes to change. And this is about change. And I think, the hardest thing for any business owner to nail is what we call RPRS. This is an EOS thing. And I'm an EOS implementer. And I did that because it was our number one outgoing referral at CAFCAP. And for those of you that don't know, it's the entrepreneurial operating system. Yes. And we had done some research. The people who were just kicking tushy, because I'm trying not to cuss. All right.
Oh, you're fine.
All right. The people who were really kicking ass were running on EOS. And so that it didn't surprise us because we've run on EOS for 10 years. That was our number one outgoing referral. And we were getting feedback from our clients going, they don't understand the legal industry. And so finally we got tired of them complaining and I became an EOS implementer. But anyway, this is part of what we learned with EOS is the hardest thing, the most important thing to nail is what's called RPRS, getting the right person in the right seat. And this is really a Jim Collins thing from Good to Great. And he talked about getting the right people on the bus.
Yes.
Are they a core value match? Are they right for the culture of your firm? And then the RS is, are they sitting in the right seat? Do they get the job? Do they literally understand what the job entails? Do they want the job? Becca, I can't tell you how many times I see people that are in jobs that they don't want.
Of course.
And do they have the capacity to do it? Do they have the skill set? And if it's not a yes, 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 they need to go out of that seat. And finding those people, getting those RPRS, those right people in the right seat, if you don't have that, if you don't have people who are willing to change, man, throw in the towel. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I feel like that is the biggest struggle. Okay. Do you ever see law firms having trouble balancing short-term profitability with long-term value building initiatives?
Oh gosh, yes. That is, that's hard because we talk about running a law firm on the rule of thirds. 1/3 of revenue should go to people. 1/3 of revenue should go to, overhead or operating expenses. And 1/3 should go to profit.
I feel like we hear that specific question so often, and you might have been leading into this. Can you tell us where those numbers came from?
Where did those numbers come from? Those numbers have come from a number of places. They have come from books, they've come from research, and they have come from what we have seen in the marketplace, just working with law firms.
Okay.
Yeah, lots of different places. That's a starting point.
Right.
We're going to adjust them. If you're personal injury and you're only getting 30% profit, we need to have a discussion because you got a problem. That's too low. But anyway, that 30%, that 1/3 that goes to profit, doesn't always necessarily go to the owner. Sometimes you take that and you reinvest it back in the firm. The biggest problem is that people often make that reinvestment without realizing it. They just keep spending the money and they don't have anything left over, as opposed to kind of pulling it down below the line and then making a conscious decision. Okay, this is $10,000 of my profit and I'm going to put it back in and I'm going to invest it and I want to get a 4x return out of it. So I'm going to put $10,000 in and I want to see $40,000 in revenue come back. People are rarely that disciplined, but that's what needs to be happening, because otherwise they're putting that $10,000 in. They're not noticing that they're putting that $10,000 in, and they may only be getting $2,000 back in revenue.
And it sounds like there's not that actual significant strategy behind.
No strategy.
The money is leaving, but there's no strategy behind it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they're not even really aware of why, there is a strategy, Becca. That's not fair. The strategy is hope and prayer.
Sure.
There is a strategy. It's not a good strategy,
right?
But it is a strategy.
Yes. Yes. All right. Just a few more questions from me.
Yeah.
Are there any non-negotiables in the selling process that our listeners should know about?
There are always non-negotiables, and absolutely. And they're different for everybody. Non-negotiables are those things. Well, let me back up. There was Price Waterhouse did a study, and it was a while ago, but I don't think if they did it today, the results would be much different.
Okay.
And what they found was 75% of owners profoundly regretted selling in the first year.
Interesting.
75%. Yeah.
I'm kind of at a loss for words.
You're speechless, right?
I am, yeah.
It is mind-boggling. And I look at that and it makes me so sad, because I can't imagine spending all that time, all that effort, all that energy, all that love.
Your life.
And then profoundly regretting selling it. So I think it's a couple of things. I think, one, in general, in our lives, we add to who we are. I'm a college graduate now. I'm now an adult. I now am a husband or a wife. I'm now a mother or a father. Like, you keep adding.
Yeah.
When you sell your business, it's the first time that you take something away. You don't get to say, I own a law firm anymore. Mm-hmm. Now it's, I used to own a law firm. I used to be an attorney. I used to be the head honcho. I used to have 10, 20 people that worked for me. I used to be. And that's hard. I think the other thing is, looking at those non-negotiables, those things that are really important to you that you want to make sure happen. It's the things that are so important to you that you would walk away from the deal if they weren't included. And they fall into 5 categories. The first one is obviously price. What price are you willing to take?
Yeah.
And sometimes that price is based on what you need to retire or what you need to get out of this venture to start your next one, because maybe you're going to start a different company. Sometimes the price is a vanity number. Don't care what it is, but there's going to be a non-negotiable price and you need to know what it is. The deal terms. So let's go back to your price and my time. This isn't like buying a house where you walk to the table, you sign the papers, and the house is gone. No. You go to the table, you sign the deal, you probably get some of the money, not all of the money, and then there's going to be a transition period where you're still working for the firm that you've sold. Yeah. But what do those deal terms look like? What are the things that are important about your team? Do you want to make sure that some people get to stay? Do you want to, are you concerned about their benefits? What do you want to ensure happens with your team? And then there's the transition. Now, some of this falls under the deal terms, but how long are you willing to work in that firm? What are you willing to do to make that transition go well? You got to know that. Are you willing to fly all over the country with the buyer and introduce them personally to every single one of your clients? I don't know. And then the post-sale, what is it going to look like after you're gone? What are you willing to do? So you've got to think about these things. And, actually, if you go to that same website that I mentioned,
yes,
we've got an exercise on coming up with your non-negotiables.
I love that because that outline was so detailed and so on point. That would be incredible.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right. So if someone would like to grab your book, where can they do that? And if they want to reach out to you, where can they do that?
So book is on Amazon, amazon.com. It's called Exit on Top. And if you want to talk to me, my email address is Brooke, BROOKE @cathcap.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, Becca, it was awesome.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. To stay in contact with your host and to access more content, go to MaximumLawyer.com. Have a great week and catch you next time.
Before you go, have you heard Jim and Tyson talk about the Guild on the podcast or in the Facebook group? If not, you're missing out on some really exciting things happening with Guild members and their law firms. The Guild includes a community, accountability, trainings, group coaching, and in-person events like our quarterly masterminds. Inside, you'll gain support, tap into a network of connections, and continue learning, a common theme among successful entrepreneurs. Investing in a community is like the self-care of business ownership. Surrounding yourself with other people who get it is crucial when you're creating a rock-solid foundation to build your business on, one that's strong enough to withstand setbacks, transitions, and growth. So head to MaximumLawyer.com/the Guild to join now and get started today.